I want to help individuals discover the intersection of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly successful career. For what that looks like for you and what it looks like for you and me are going to be so different that why would I drive you to my intersection until you build a house and be happy? Would I not rather drive you to your intersection and say, isn't this where you hope to be? And if we can't answer that for ourselves, we are perpetually going to be living somebody else's dream.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Medicare Sales Playbook. I'm your host, Dallas Keithley. We are excited today. We've got something big for you. I told our guests before, I said, I don't really get nervous. And it's not something that I do. I'm not smart enough to get nervous, right? Like I just usually jump into stuff. I'm a little bit excited / nervous today, not out of fear, just excited about what we have coming. I have my Bob Ross socks on today. If I could get my leg up here, I would show you. That is my calming effect. That's when you know I'm really here for the party, is if I show up in Bob Ross socks. I don't know why I said that, but here we are. Today, I want to bring him in right away. I am very, very excited to have us join on the program. A gentleman that I met at Cody's Askins event, 8%. He came in, he spoke on stage, and I told him earlier, I have never seen anyone control a room like this gentleman did. And he gave out some assignments during his speech, during his presentation, and everyone did it. And guys, I go to conferences all over the country. I never see that. So please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Rocky Garza. Rocky, thank you for being on here, buddy.
Appreciate it, sir. It's so good to be here. So in reflection to your Bob Ross socks, I actually don't have on socks. So, wow. That's like my calming effect is like, you know what, I'm going to go, you can't see it. But I put on fancy pants for you. I have loafers on for you. And I don't do that. But I thought, you know what? I'm going on the Medicare Sales Playbook podcast. I got it. He's going to have a sport coat. I got a collar and I got my loafers on. So that means we're ready to get down to business today.
Dude, that hit me right in the feels. It's going to be good when both of us, when you have extries, you know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. You went Bob Ross to cozy the toes and I went, let's just get the toes out there.
Yes, sir. Now, man, like I said, I do appreciate you being on here. All of our guests, man. I always start off everything by saying time's the most valuable thing you have. We can't create more of it. We can't go back in it. But man, you being here and spending some time with us, it means a great deal. So I thank you very much. So,
yeah, absolutely. I'm super pumped. I'm ready.
All right. So let's jump right into it. So new agents are primarily who listen to the Medicare Sales Playbook. We're here. Our goal, my tagline is we want to help you grow your business one play at a time, your book of business. So I want to talk today to really all agents, but if you had a chance, if somebody had the opportunity to come before you and sit down and spend an hour with Rocky and say, Rocky, I'm getting in the insurance world. I want to make sure my mind is right. How would you start that conversation? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing that I would tell you is you prepare to look at whatever incremental times you say you're going to plan. You're looking at your 30, your 90, your 6 month, and your 12 year, right? Number one, I would say, don't try to don't think longer than a year away, because a year is a long time. And until you can do on a daily basis what is required to get to the next day, whatever your 12-month goal is, doesn't really matter. And so what I mean by that is I think oftentimes we get caught that we look at our goal as something that we're going to arrive at because we wrote it down, rather than our goal being actually the result of all the work and effort and energy I'm committed to doing so that I can arrive there. So I think oftentimes we especially in any new business, I think especially as new agents, we go, okay, I'm going to do 6 figures. I saw it on a podcast. I know it can be done. It's my first year. I'm going to get in. I'm going to do it. And so we have this end of road picture we're looking at. And then someone goes, do you know the activity required on a daily basis over 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year, broken down? Do you know how many dials you have to make per hour over a 12-month period based on our conversion ratio to get to 100K? And they look at me wide-eyed like, I think you just spoke Japanese to me, right? And I go, no, I'm not. I'm just asking you, do you know what you need to do today? Because if you're unsure about what you need to do today, I can't take you to another training to change your technique until you're willing to put in the activity. And are you aware of the activity? Now, we're using this in the context of what play by play to build your playbook in order to build the kind of revenue and business you want. But it applies to every aspect of your life. I'm going to eat healthier. You're going to eat healthier because you've said, I'm going to eat healthier. You're going to eat healthier because you've predetermined what you're going to have for breakfast. Because if you don't know what you're going to have for breakfast today, I don't think you're going to eat healthier this week. No, I am. I meal planned. Oh, so you wrote down the idea about the meals you would have. Did you purchase those groceries? No. I just like planned it out on my calendar. So feels like I don't think you're not going to order Uber Eats. Sounds like you're going to have Chipotle again.
Yeah, that and is always it's always a future, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. As opposed to going, I know that I have to eat 3 meals today in order for me to feel satisfied. One of those is breakfast. Do I have anything in my life that is for breakfast that falls in the category that gets me to this ultimate goal? You don't. We'll call those leads. So you don't have any. Interesting. Do you know where to get them? I haven't been to the grocery store in 6 months. Curious. So we probably should identify a good grocery store. Do we know? We'll stop on the food metaphor. We'll leave it there. But I think if I could sit down with someone for an hour, the first thing I would go is, hey, before you jump to your 1-year goal, why don't we talk about our day-to-day plan? And why don't we talk about what you're going to do today, and know that the accumulation of daily activity will always yield a future result. No matter what you think the result's going to be, you're going to wake up in 30 days from now and have done something or nothing. It's true. You can't, it's the only way it's not true is you're no longer alive. So your daily activity will accumulate to some kind of result. If you have a clear picture of what you think that result is, why do you not have a clear picture of the daily activity required in order to accumulate together to arrive at that place?
Yeah. One thing that really, I've worked with Cody's dad. We mentioned Cody Askins. I've worked with Brian for 23 years now. And one thing that really stuck with me, man, he put it into Dallas terms. He's like, look, Dallas, success is easy. It's not hard. He said, you get up today, you know what you have to do today. You do that task to the best of your ability. And then tomorrow you do the same thing. Before you know it, you look back and you've got a string of success. And then you wake up one day and you're like, holy cow, I've been doing this for 20 years and the success is there. So it's just, you know, in the Bible, even Paul said, like the guy that we would be like, okay, what Christian do you want to aspire to be? Paul said, look, I die daily. It's a daily thing. So that's strong, man. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
When we look at, one thing I want to look back at that you mentioned was you talked about, I want to have 100,000. And that's I talk to new agents all the time. That's the thing they say. How much do you want to make? That's the first question I ask. How much do you want to make this year? 100,000. Why? How important is it that a person look at their own personal goal? Because if we measure, Einstein said, if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, you'll always think him a failure. If I judge myself based on somebody else's success and what they've done, there's a good chance. We had Letitia Jackson on. She said, man, she goes, Dallas, some of these guys, I get them in here and they're like, I want to make $100,000. And I say, let's just do this. Let's pay your bills this month. Let's just pay your bills this month. And that's success. That's something you're not doing. How important is it and how should someone break down a personal goal rather than somebody else's goal?
100%. So number one is, if you have something and someone says, what do you want? And your response involves another human being's answer, you're wrong. So I think that doesn't mean you can't have similar goals, but you can't start there. So the way that I try to make it to you said, in Dallas language and Rocky language is, let's be very simple. I want you to start by writing down. I tell to clients this all the time. What do you want? And they go, well, what do you mean? What do I want? Like in my life, what do I want? In my business, what do I want? Yes. My answer to that is yes. I'm asking, what is that? And typically that question can be so confounding. It's so big. And we're like, I don't know what I want. Great. So let's start here. Get out a piece of paper. And I want you to write down 20 things that you want. Just the first 20 things that come to your mind. I want you to write down those things. I want you to wait 24 hours. I want you to come back and I want you to cross off 10 of those things and get rid of 10 of them. I want you to wait 24 more hours and I want you to cross off 5 of them. Those 5 5 things that are left will be the clearest picture of where you should spend the next 90 days than you've probably had ever in your life before. Not because it's magic, because you gave yourself a 36-hour window to really look at what you really wanted. You started at 20 things, you whittled it down to 5, and those 5 are going to be the most current, the most pressing, and the most immediately fulfilling for you to find. Then how do we find the daily activity that allows us to begin, go back to what we just said, to work in that direction? Most of you don't want 6 figures. You want to tell your friend you did 6 figures. Most of you don't want to build a big agency. You've never led, you have never managed people, you have never gone through HR, you've never paid benefits, you've never done taxes, you have no idea what payroll tax looks like. And I'm not telling you can't or you shouldn't. I'm saying the goal to aspire to a 7-figure agency is not actually what you want. You want the perceived freedom that you believe comes with having money you don't currently have, because you see people who have money you don't, and you believe they are more free than you are. And the reality is they're probably not. They just talk about it more because it makes them feel good about the fact that they don't know what they're doing either. So until you can have a clear picture of what it is you really want, and I'm not asking for the end of your life, I'm saying, what do you want for the next quarter? I think we're 90-day creatures. What do you want for the next quarter? It's for us now, it's end of October. So whenever you're listening to this, it's going to be November, it's going to be December. Whenever you're hearing this, you've got that window. Don't tell me what you think is going to happen at the end of 2027, because you have no idea. Tell me what's going to happen at the end of January. And tell me how much money you need to make to clear January to say to yourself, this is something I believe in and I'm going to do for 30 more days. But until that, we are perpetually building this idea about what we think is going to come from the result. So is what you want peace? Is what you want perceived financial freedom? By the way, you can have financial freedom today. You can be free from your finances if you allow yourself. But you don't allow yourself because you think more money is going to solve the problem. The problem is the fact that you don't have a budget, you don't know where to spend money, and you've never actually asked anyone to look at your finances with you. That's the problem. It's not more money. You have plenty of money now. You just don't know where to put it. Right? We can take that and put that in a million other places, personally, emotionally, relationally. My relationships always fall apart. What would be the common denominator here? I believe it would be a you. Feels like we should go back to that before we start saying that everybody else is the reason that nobody loves me anymore. There's this, we could take this same theory and apply it to any aspect of our life. And for us, that's why I'm always sort of driving the point going, regardless of where you are, I think there's an intersection. If I could spend the next 2 decades of my life, Dallas, doing nothing else, whether it's coaching, speaking, whatever the application of said thing is to get it, I want to help individuals discover the intersection of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly successful career. For what that looks like for you, and what it looks like for you and me are going to be so different that why would I drive you to my intersection and tell you build a house and be happy? Would I not rather drive you to your intersection and say, isn't this where you hope to be? And if we can't answer that for ourselves, we are perpetually going to be living somebody else's dream.
Wow, man, I'm just going to let that sink in for just a second. Like, dead air on a podcast is bad, right? But guys, a lot to unpack there. And I'm really glad he's not talking to me. He's talking to all of you, right? This doesn't apply to me at all. Okay. So I do want to go back. So last night, my wife and I, we're at the age, and I hate it when people say that just means old, but we are at the age where our kids they have a lot of their own lives a lot of times. So we find ourselves in a place where we're sitting there and it's just the two of us again. And it's not been that for a while because we've had kids and all that stuff. And, and so we're rediscovering what that's like. And I promise I'm getting back to your point here. My wife sat down and we're waiting on our food at the restaurant. And she said, let's ask some questions. And so she started asking me questions that she found on this app. I took her phone away after a while, but she found these questions. And one of the questions was, she said, what do you like to do in your spare time? And I am 46 years old, Rocky. I had no idea. I didn't know how to answer that because I'm like, well, it made me really sit and think, okay, that is a very simple question. You asked the question earlier, what do you want? And as you're saying it, you said it at Cody Askin's event. I'm sitting there going, at 46 years old, I have no idea what I want. I know what I have to do today. I know, the rigors of daily life. Why is it that most people do not know what and I'm scared to ask this question because boy, I told you at the beginning of the podcast, man, I'm going to be laying on a couch at the end. I don't even know where the couch is going to come from, but I'm going to be laying on a couch crying about my dad or something. Why is it that most people don't know what they want? And why do we not take the time to find out?
Great question. So here's my guttural answer. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Most of us don't know what we want because nobody has ever asked us. And because no one has ever asked us, we absolutely have never asked ourselves.
Because it's scary almost, isn't it?
It's not only that, but and I'm going to make a bunch of generalizations. So take all of this with a grain of salt, especially if you're listening. You're like, this guy's an idiot. Just hear metaphorically what I'm saying. You don't take me literally. But if we could let's just take some generalizations about humanity, right? Let's take you and me for an example. We'll use ourselves as the example. I am somebody who sort of perpetually my whole life has been the strong one. Even today, I'm 41, married, got 2 kids, helping take care of my parents, taking care of my grandparents. I manage their business. I manage their accounts. I pay their bills. I do my own bills. I have right? Like I'm always been. And so for a long time, it took me, we stack that with being the strong one. We stack that with just generalizations about being a male and what that's looked like over the course of the last 50 years or 41 years of my life. We sort of stack these things together. For me, if I'm the strong one and I'm holding everybody up in the air, let's call that half my doing, half their doing. Let's just split the blame. It's really, really hard for the person that you're holding up to look down at you and ask you how you're doing and what you want. Because what if what you say is that you're tired? And what if what you say is that you would like to put them down? Isn't it easier to assume that Rocky and Dallas are fine than it is to ask them what they need, much less what they want, for fear that your life has to change because I was willing to answer a difficult question? And I don't blame anyone for that. I often find deep pride in my ability to use both my hands to hold things up. However, at what cost? And so if we are unwilling to even ask ourselves, what do we want? You add a layer of, we've been told our whole lives that getting what you want makes you selfish. We've been told that self-worth is selfish. We've been told to sacrifice everything about us if we'd like to be fulfilled. We've told us that if we can find a way to lose ourselves in the hopes of being loved, then maybe someday we will arrive and be satisfied. And the reality is that if my life is not full, what am I actually giving to my wife? If my life is not full, what is my son and daughter actually receiving? What is my team really getting? What are my clients really getting from me? What am I, in fact, getting from me? It sounds to me like I've been driving to your intersection and hoping to be satisfied, yet finding myself consistently dissatisfied because I've been willing to identify what is the thing in me that makes me me, i.e. who I am. What do I want, i.e. what am I going to do? And where those two things collide, all of a sudden we find ourselves going, wait a second, maybe it's not that I don't have an answer, it's just that I've never been asked. And if I'm willing to sit with myself long enough to answer the question, 1, maybe I'm closer than I think. And 2, maybe it's time to put your hands down.
Ooh.
And maybe it's time to let a couple people stand on their own. Maybe it's time to stop associating rest with inability. Maybe it's time to stop associating restoration with laziness. Maybe it's time to stop associating solitude with lack of productivity. Maybe there's space in there that I get to be a human being in the way that I desire to build it for everybody else. And if so, maybe in that environment, for the first time in a long time, I actually get to see myself.
Yeah, my production studio is clapping, dude. That's strong. That is very strong. And man, it really, something you said in there. I think you and I grew up, I'm a little older than you, but you and I grew up in the same atmosphere. A lot of those things that you mentioned, solidarity, lazy, they all tie, we tie those together in our mind. But let's bring it back to a new agent. I'm looking at a new agent.
Yep.
New agents come in. Like if we bring somebody in under us, we're like, right business, right business, right business, buy leads, right business, buy leads, right business, buy leads, right business. And so then they're doing that. They're holding all that up and they're not having the success that they want. They're not seeing the results they want. They can't feed their family. Then all that stress just kills. That's, in my opinion, that's why it's so important. You say, Dallas, what's all this have to do with a Medicare agent? That's why it's so important to build that foundation from the beginning. It's not selfish to ask, what do you want? You're building the foundation so that you can build a structure that can support yourself. You can support other people, support your clients, all that stuff. But I think we just jump ahead to right business, right business, right business, right business. Pick up the phone, pick up the phone, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. And we don't think about, man, I don't have my foundation laid yet.
And I think let's tie sales to sustainability in our personal life, right? I think there's a direct through line here. I actually just got off a call earlier. I was actually I had a call with the chief people and culture officer from Zillow, and so spoke at their event, met him, and he and I had a great conversation. Them talking about what Zillow's kind of where they're going. So I use that as an example because I think there is this through line between right business, right business, right business, right business, right business. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. Well, if we were to just extract that out from a sales perspective, I'm putting in all the activity, but I'm not yielding the results. Okay. Then if you're putting in the right activity and you're not yielding results, we don't have an activity problem. We have a technique problem, right? So let's adjust the technique. Don't stop writing business. Don't stop following up with leads. Don't stop calling leads. You're saying something that ain't it. Your follow-up game isn't it. The activity is there. The technique is not there. Have you refined your technique? Have you adjusted your technique? Have you used a certain script? Have you followed up with your leader to say, hey, what's not happening? Or do you perpetually do the same activity, hoping for a different result, and then feel like you can't make it? Fair on the sales side, right? We all experience it. So let me ask you this. Are you hoping that your marriage will get better, yet you don't have dialogue, you don't share how you feel, you don't go on a date, and you rarely ever ask what it is that they need or what you need, but you do the same activity on repeat for the first decade of your marriage, and then you wonder why it's your 10-year anniversary, you don't feel connected together? It's not because you're not willing to put in the activity, it's because you don't have the right technique. It's the same. It's the same conversation with our kids. It's the same conversation with our spouse. It's the same conversation with our teammates. Let's back up here just a second. Let's go back on to, let's get that couch back out. It's the same conversation that we have with ourselves. Are you having a different kind of conversation with yourself about the technique that you're using regularly? Or are you perpetually mistaking activity for progress and then frustrated that you wake up in the same position every day? No, you're mistaking activity for progress. They're not the same. But the only way that activity turns to progress is that we adjust the technique. The exact same thing is going to happen in sales, and the exact same thing is going to happen in your life. And so we have to ask ourselves, but we want to use that sort of as our framework. If you're listening to this, you're a new agent, you're thinking, all right, I got to get it in. I got my sales playbook and I read the right book and I listened to the podcast and I got a little bit of Andy Elliott, a little bit of Bradley. I got a little Cardone, not too much. I came back and got a little bit of life insurance. I listened to Cody and then I was out there and I talked to Wetmore, then I got to Dallas again. Like, you get all the things you're supposed to get. You talk to all the right people. It's not working. It's not working. So when's the last time you asked yourself about your own technique? When's the last time you had a conversation with yourself, just you, and went like, hey, am I measuring the activity? Am I aware? Am I aware of even why I'm doing what I'm doing? Why do you want to be an agent? And don't tell me to make six figures, because that's a stupid reason. Because there's a lot of different ways to go make six figures, and it ain't this. So there's got to be something in here for you that you've yet to put a language to. That if we could uncover that, there's a rhyme and a reason that all of a sudden the activity gets adjusted with the technique, which our activity then turns to progress, and we wake up in 90 days and we realize we've written more business in the last 90 days than we have in the last 9 months. Well, why is that? Well, because we actually uncovered the reason that we show up every day. It's glitchy, it's kitschy, and it's cliche, and Simon Sinek, and define your why. And everybody has an argument, and you have to define your why, and the other argument is like, whys are stupid, just put in the work and shut up. And so some combination of both of those things are probably true. So let's just assume that both parties are right. We just like to be one or the other so that you could buy our book. So let's go somewhere in the middle and say that we're both correct. Okay, you're right. Define your why and go to work. Let's do both. But here's the kicker for all of us, especially new agents. I bet if you went back and we could spend 2 weeks and we could pull data, resources, and history of the most successful new agents over the last 36 months, I would almost guarantee you here's what we would find. They allow 2 truths to be true at the same time that the industry says you have to have one or the other. And the new agent that says activity, 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 relentless pursuit of activity, and deep, meaningful, thoughtful purpose and technique that I am willing to refine consistently. The most successful agents in the last 36 months hold the tension of both of those things, and they believe that they are equally valuable. Just like the marriages who have had 2 to 3 to 4 decades held the tension of I am going to care for myself and make sure that I am full so that when I show up to this relationship, I actually have something to offer. And I'm not going to view me taking care of myself as at a loss for you. It's actually for your gain. And we could take this metaphor and we could apply it to many, many things in our life. But I believe there is an immense amount of freedom that comes if you allow yourself to have 2 truths hold together at the same time that we've been told don't belong together. If you can let them belong together, my friend, your life in every aspect will be exponentially better.
Beautiful. That's amazing, man. Okay. So one thing I wrote down here, we talked about on a daily basis, renewing yourself, all that stuff. And I have been listening. I don't want it to sound like I haven't. I know we talk about, we don't just do what everybody else does. But if you were mentoring someone and said, okay, listen, here's what your day should include. Here are some things that successful people do on a daily basis. What would you narrow those down to?
Yeah, so I call that the 365 formula. So if you're listening, you're taking notes, you're looking for a tactical, practical, again, any podcast episode, you want to have something to walk away with, here's your takeaway. I want you to do the 365 formula. Okay, it's easy to remember because there's 365 days in a year. Here's what that means. Every successful person that I've ever talked to, and when I say successful, let me be very clear. I know successful people that make 80K and I know successful people that make 8 million. They're both successful because the intersection of a deeply meaningful life and a wild successful career, they have found that location in their life. That's what I mean by successful. However, all of them have this in common. They utilize something like our version of the 365 formula. Here's what it means. I want to encourage you to choose 3 things that you're going to commit to doing 6 days a week within the first 5 minutes of waking up. I'm not asking you to change your sales tactics. I'm not asking you to read 700 pages a year. If you want to do those things, fantastic. Here's what I'm telling you they have in common. They have 3 to 5 very simple things that they do 6 days a week. The reason we say 6 and not 7 is because you're a human being. I'm not looking for streaks. I'm looking for sustain. 3 things, 6 days a week, within the first 5 minutes of waking up, which means they need to be quick, fast, in a hurry, and short, i.e., drink a glass of water, do not hit the snooze button, say my affirmations. That's it. Now you're thinking, Rocky, you want me to get up, drink water, not hit a snooze button, and say 3 fun things to myself in the mirror, and all of a sudden I'm going to magically have a great business? My answer to you is yes. That is exactly what I'm saying. Because the reason you're not successful right now is not the fact that your team or Dallas or whoever else has not equipped you well enough to have the resources you need. It's that you don't do what you say you're going to do on a regular basis often enough to tell yourself that you actually are the kind of person who's willing to do the work. because you get up and you hit the snooze button, you pick up your phone immediately and you react the first part of your day. You don't drink water. You're trying to think on 6 cups of coffee. Your brain is foggy. You don't do what you say you're going to do. And so when it comes time to finally that deadline, making those calls, taking 1,200, breaking it down over 12 months, that's 100 every month over 4 weeks. That's 25 every week over 5 days. That's 5 a day, 5 calls a day. 1,200 calls a year is 5 calls a day over an 8-hour day. That's about 75 minutes per call you have if you want to do 1,200 a year. You want to do it a month, squeeze it down before. You can do the math. It's not that difficult. The reason you don't is because you don't wake up on a daily basis and do what you say you're going to do. And the first decision that you make every day is you tell yourself, I don't do what I say. Who I am is not important. And I'm going to snooze because the alarm is a liar. And I don't have to do what I said I was going to do last night. I can do what I want. And what I want is, well, you know what? I don't have an answer to that question. So I'm just going to keep hitting the snooze button on my life again and again and again.
So it just sets the day for, I'm going to survive today. Like,
I already made it out of yesterday. What am I stressed out about? And I don't have a clue what's going to happen tomorrow. So all I know is I better get up right now. I better drink that water. I better remind myself, Rocky, you are intense and it is good. Rocky, you are, and it is good. You better get in there, get in that brain and remind it, and put your phone down because your emails are going to be there when you get to the office. What's the point of checking them at 6:05 when you're about to spend 35 minutes getting a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old out of bed, dressed, breakfast, yourself together in a car to the bus stop? You really think what's going to help that is the 3 emails that someone sent you at midnight? If they're emailing you at midnight, they're not in a good place. So I don't want to deal with that at 6:05. I want to deal with that after I'm in the office and at least 1 cup of coffee, right? Doing the things we say we're going to do consistently on a daily basis will radically change your life. And that's not a quip. That's not a free guide. I'm telling you, many of you do not have what you want because you don't know what it is. And you don't consistently remind yourself that you are the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do.
Okay. I want to be very applicable here. So the glass of water, that's easy. That when I say easy, that's easy to understand.
That's right.
So I better have a glass of water beside the bed before I go to bed at night, right?
Or if you want a reason to do number 2, which is get up when your alarm goes off, fill up the glass of water and go put it someplace that you have to get up to go get it. Go put it on the kitchen counter, right? And those of you that are weird about water left out, get your little paper towel and put it over the top if you want to, or get your Yeti lid and close it down. I mean, you got plenty of options at this point. If Stanley doesn't have a lid that you can use, you got a different kind of problem. So put your water in there, get up, go to the kitchen and drink your water. And depending on where you are, read a little section out of your book. Read a page in your Devo. Get a copy of the Daily Stoic. I don't care. I don't care what you do. I just want you to commit to yourself that you're going to do it. Right.
The third one, though, affirmations. You have constructed affirmations. And listen, I don't expect you to be like, okay, here's everything an affirmation should consist of. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. If someone is building affirmations, 3 things that they say to themselves every day, what should those entail a little bit?
Yep. It should entail something that is true. You should take that truth and turn it into something that is good. And it should be something that is core to who you are, not what you accomplish. Here's an example. I'm going to give you the 30-second quick and dirty of what we call the confidence method. Okay. Stories told to us about us. If you're listening, most of what you believe about yourself is what's been told to you about you over the course of your life. Rocky, you're too intense. Rocky, you're too much. Rocky, why are you yelling? Rocky, calm down. Rocky, do you even have a real job? So what do? So you just talk to people? Like your job is just to talk and the people pay you to show up and talk? Okay, all the things been told to me about my life. That's what I believe. You right now listening, believe the stories that have been told to you about you. Step 1, go identify those stories. Now, where most of us get in trouble is that we have a second narrative, which is the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. Rocky goes, hey, calm down, my boy. You're on an insurance podcast. You barely even have insurance. What are you doing? You have all the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And no one talks to you more than you do. Now, here's where it gets wild. Where those 2 stories collide, we say the word collision on purpose, because where the stories told to you about you and the stories tell yourself collide, there is always an impact. There's always an impact of that collision. For 99% of us, the impact of that collision is fear, doubt, obstacle, and insecurity. Rocky's been told his whole life, you're too intense. Rocky says, hey, calm down. It's a podcast. You have a professional microphone. Why are you yelling right now? Just talk in a regular tone. The vein in your neck is popping out, which means you are amped up and you should just take it down a notch. That's what I tell myself. Those two stories collide. It creates an impact. Now, the reality of that impact most often is there is a beautiful truth about who you are. It has been tainted by the story someone else told you. And by the way, the stories told to you about you are almost always a greater representation of the storyteller than they are the main character of the story. I'll let you go back and listen to that one on rewind. However, what that means for us is that we have a choice. One of my affirmations is, Rocky, you are intense and it is good. Now, why do we say it that way? Have I been told that my whole life? I have. Do I tell myself that? I do. Is it true? Yes, it's true. It is absolutely true. Now, here's where most of us fall apart. I promise you I answer your question. Here's where most of us fall apart on affirmations. Is that one, we rarely even get to truth. We just go to story. Is it true? Don't know. Is it right? Couldn't tell you, but it's a story and I believe it. Next day, and we live our whole life on repeat. Now, if we can go from story and we can go to truth, Rocky, you are intense. Put a period there. That's what I call a confirmation. Most people who do the work to discover who they are get to confirmation and stop. And I think we sell ourselves short if we only ever get to confirmation. And here's what I mean. When you book a flight to go someplace, what kind of email do they send you after you book your flight?
Confirmation.
That's right. That's right. Do you know how much money they would make if they started sending affirmation emails instead? But they don't. Why do they not send you an affirmation email and they only send you a confirmation email? Because they don't know if your flight's going to be good. All they know is you do in fact have a ticket. I can confirm what's true. Do I have a ticket? True. Most of us live a life like that. Do you have a life? True. Do you have problems? Yep. Are there things about you? There are. And we stop right there. Now, what happens when we go from confirmation to affirmation, where we get into your question, what are the three things and non-negotiables as related to affirmations? It needs to both be a story about us. It needs to be a true story about us. It needs to be a truth that we're willing to recognize is good. So see, affirmations are not just a statement of truth. They're a statement of truth and goodness. Rocky, you are intense. Not a period, but a comma. And you are good. Rocky, you are emotional. Comma. It's not over yet. And you are good. So we start stacking layers of life and history and a religious background and faith and what we were told and how we were to see things. And we stack a little shame in there. We put a little guilt in there. And all of a sudden we look in the mirror and we go, who do I think I am that I get to stand confidently and say that, Rocky, you are emotional and intense and it is good? Who do you think you are to say you are good? That's an interesting intersection for us to find ourselves in. However, I think for us to figure out and build those, it requires the work to dig in where the story come from. It requires the work to go, how do I actually talk to myself and be really honest? We're looking for mirrors, not windows here. Part of the reason you're not successful in your life is because you spend all your time looking out the window and you never look in a mirror. That's a different podcast episode. We'll come back to that one next season. However, if you're willing to face the mirror, it's amazing what you see. And what if what you believed every day was that what you see was good?
Man, something you did there that just really grabbed me is you're taking something that somebody else meant as a put down, somebody else meant as a really something negative, and you're turning it into something positive. The effect that would have on people is just unbelievable, because you've got the positive. You can go ahead and believe that stuff, but then you take the stuff that's meant to put you down and you turn that into a positive. You're unstoppable. That's incredible, man.
And I think oftentimes, like, that's really where we land, is that we tend to get so consumed by the stories that were told to us about us, rather than really being consumed by what we know to believe to be true, that we live in this reactive cycle all the time. I mean, ultimately, that's what we did when we were 8%, right? We did a very short portion of a larger process called identity mapping. But the reason it tends to be so profound for people is because I'm sort of putting you in a position where I'm forcing you to ask yourself, hey, stop living reactionary, get proactive. And why is what the one thing you want to accomplish in life the thing you think about the least? That feels counterintuitive. Should it be the thing we think about the most? Right? Like, and we can sort of follow suit down that on any other way we decided to. But I think in doing so, all of those begin to go. Like if I could get a job as like Rocky Translate, like you have Google Translate, you have Alexa, if I could be instead of Siri, but we could have Rocky, right? If I could find a way to get in there, right? Like, and we'll do this. I know we're coming close on our time here, so let's do this one quick thing because you have been you've sort of been foreshadowing it. So just tell me this: what is one story that's been told to you about you over the course of your life?
We're talking about me.
We're talking about you.
Okay. Story that's been told to me. You are hyperactive and have ADHD.
Okay. Beautiful.
Same
beautiful.
thing. Settle down,
Yes. Okay. Now here's the
deal.
deal.
Rein it in. Yeah.
So here, if I could be Rocky Translate, right? And I'm going to be the translator between the person with that voice and you before you get to hear that voice, right? Dallas, you're hyperactive. You got ADHD. Calm down, settle down, take it easy. What are you doing? Okay. We already know the story they told us. Now that's going to come into Rocky and I'm going to translate out to you what it is they're really trying to say. Okay. Dallas, I don't know what to do with the level of energy that you have. And what seems to be your ability to have a perpetual cycle of effort and energy to accomplish what you want is overwhelming to me. And at times makes me feel like I'm not good enough, not your fault, but mine. And so to make me feel a little bit better and to stop you from getting hurt, because in my life, when I've seen other people who acted how you acted, it didn't go well for them. And I love you and I don't want that to happen to you. And so I'm telling you, from my experience, if you'll tone it down just a little, life may be a little bit easier for you. And because I love you and care about you, oh man, I want your life to be easy. So calm down, settle down. You're too hyperactive. You have too many things. So I'm only going to use the words I have rather than doing the work to find the words that I mean. And many of us have spent our entire adult life with the words that the people had, not with the words that they actually need.
It's big, man.
So we're not, and I think the beautiful part of that is we're not even trying to take the bad things about us and make them good. We're trying to retranslate the story that was told that was good from the beginning and give it a whole new meaning, because now it's going to carry the weight and the reality about who we are, not the story that somebody else was actually writing about themselves. We just happen to be the only person that was available to hear it. Whew.
Yeah, that's good, man. Y'all see why I wore my Bob Ross socks today? Does it make sense now? That's incredible. Rocky, I do have to wrap this up. I've got the signal at least 6 times in there. Man, great stuff. Let me ask you one big question I want to ask. Who is Rocky reading right now? What are you reading?
Great question. Great question. I'm currently reading a book called Of Boys and Men. And it's an incredible, it has nothing to do with business, but it has a lot to do with sort of the current state of where the world is and where we are as men and what that looks like and what's coming before us. I have a 9-year-old son, so I'm wildly fascinated and deeply concerned as well as invigorated with what life can look like for him. And so there's the author of that book did a great podcast on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Anyway, that's the book I am currently reading. It's called Of Boys and Men. And I think for men and women of all kinds, it's a great book to be able to sort of get a pulse on. I think a lot of things that many of us feel, but we lack the words to communicate. It is bringing a lot of perspective of what are things I feel as an individual and the ways in which I hope the world sees me show up.
Awesome. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Guys, you just got a little taste. Honestly, just a tiny taste. Rocky, if they want to know more about you, if they want to follow you, if they want, they're sitting there going, goodness, I need more couch time. What is the best way to find Rocky and follow you and all that?
Yeah. So you can just hit me up on LinkedIn and Instagram is probably the two most active places. We're on all platforms. Those are the two places that we tend to be the most active. So you can just go to Instagram.com/Rocky Garza or LinkedIn.com/IN/Rocky Garza. You can find me there. And if you're interested in what we're up to and what we're doing next, we host a lot of free events for you to come and get a taste of where we're at and where we're going and how we can support you. And you can get that at RockyGarza.com/beyond-success. Again, that's RockyGarza.com/beyond-success. And it's always up to date with our next virtual event we have. We'd love for you to register and we would be honored to see you there.
Rocky, I can't say this enough. It has been an absolute privilege, a pleasure. Thank you very much. I'm going to say it on the recording so this is a verbal contract. We have to do this again sometime very, very soon, man.
Yeah. I can't wait. Listen, just shoot me the link. I'd love to be there.
Let's do it. All right, man. You guys, thank you very much for watching, listening, however you're doing it. Please share this out. This is going to help somebody. The most selfish thing you can do is keep everything to yourself. Share this out there. It'll help us out. It'll help you out. It'll help somebody else out. And isn't that why we're really all here? Thank you again for listening to the Medicare Sales Playbook. Please be sure to follow, like, subscribe, comment. Who do you know that I should be talking to? Who do you know that deserves the Bob Ross socks? We love you all very much. If there's anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on the Medicare Sales Playbook.